This is Canon's most important camera in years, the EOS R1 mirrorless. Revealed alongside the R5 II, it's the new flagship designed to replace the 1DX Mark III DSLR and help maintain Canon's leadership in pro sports. The R1 is all about speed, with the 24 megapixel stacked sensor allowing 40 frame per second bursts with continuous autofocus. Other features are designed to help pros nail crucial shots, including pre-capture, IAF, and sports-specific settings. One potential downside is the 24 megapixel resolution, less than rivals like Sony's A1 and the Nikon Z9. I was able to get a short amount of hands-on time in Arizona filming multiple sports to gather some initial impressions. Though massive for a mirrorless camera, the R1 is lighter than it looks at 2.12 pounds. The magnesium alloy body is dust and water resistant, and the large, comfortable grip uses new rubber to reduce slippage. It's a stable platform, even with telephoto lenses, clearly designed for working professionals. The layout is much like recent models, with dual control dials, a rear dial, joystick, mode switch, and many customizable buttons. Canon did add a touch-sensitive IR button called the Smart Controller, with 3 ways to adjust autofocus. Overall, the R1 handles like an F1 car, fast and reactive, but requires lots of practice. The viewfinder is Canon's best yet, with 9.44 million dots, 0.9 times magnification, and 3 times brightness, all tops in the EOS series. The rear display fully articulates for high and low angle shooting. The R1 eschews old-school SD cards in favor of 2 CF Express Type B slots. That allows for maximum raw burst speeds, fast and reliable backups, and more. It uses a variant of the battery from the EOS R3 that supports up to 650 shots or 70 minutes of 6K video on a charge. Connectivity is the best we've seen on any Canon camera, with Wi-Fi 6E, Ethernet, USB-C PD, and more. The R1 is built for action, and suffice to say, it's fast. In blackout-free electronic shutter mode, you can shoot JPEG and RAW frames at up to 40 frames per second for a long while before the massive buffer fills. It hits 12 frames per second with a mechanical shutter, a feature that's missing on Nikon's rival Z9. The latter isn't usually necessary though, as the stacked shutter largely eliminates rolling shutter distortion. There are numerous autofocus improvements as well. With regular single-point tracking, you can change the target with either the joystick or smart controller. And now, the R1 has a new eye tracking system called IAF2. As with the R3, you must calibrate it first, and it won't necessarily function well for everyone, but it worked great for me, as the tracking box followed my eyes with less drift than before. That didn't necessarily translate to sharp photos, but again, it's a pre-production camera. Of course, the R1 offers face and eye detection, both for humans and animals. It also has a new feature if you're trying to single out someone in a crowd of players. First of all, there are now AI modes for 3 specific sports: volleyball, basketball, and soccer. The idea is that it'll track action around the ball to help you nail key shots. It's also supposed to stay locked on a player even if someone else passes in front of them. Finally, you can register up to 10 faces to keep track of target athletes. How do these things work? It's hard to say in the short time I had the camera, but I didn't notice any particular improvement with chaotic action or specific sports. But these features do require time to master, so a full review will tell me more. Another new feature is pre-capture, seen on many high-end cameras these days. The R1 starts taking photos when you half-press the shutter button, recording up to the last 20 frames once it's fully pressed. Canon has led the way in image stabilization since the R5, and the R1 offers a solid 8.5 stops of shake reduction with supported lenses. This isn't necessarily a great benefit for action shooting, but it does help with landscapes or low-light shooting. Canon likely anticipated moaning about the relatively low 24 megapixel resolution. In response, it unveiled a new feature called in-camera upscaling. It uses deep learning to quadruple image size to 96 megapixels in camera after shooting, supposedly while maintaining apparent resolution. This is different from the pixel shift scheme that adds true detail. However, it was hard to get a straight answer from Canon as to exactly how it worked. As for image quality, it's difficult to judge in pre-production cameras, and Canon specifically said that in-camera RAW processing was a work in progress. Nonetheless, JPEGs looked sharp out of the camera and had the company's typical excellent skin tones. Low-light image quality is a selling point of this camera, and it did appear to perform well at high ISOs, with decent image quality up to 12,800 ISO and beyond. However, it's no Sony a7S III at very high ISOs, so the maximum 102,400 ISO is for emergency use only. Stacked sensor cameras tend to compromise some dynamic range in favor of speed, but there's no sign of that with the R1. However, we'll need more time to get a full idea of raw image quality, particularly at high ISOs. Though mainly aimed at photographers, the R1 is potentially a monster video camera too. It lacks the R5 II's 8K feature, but does offer 6K Canon RAW video at up to 60 frames per second using the full width of the sensor. You also get fully oversampled full sensor 4K at up to 60 frames per second, or 4K that's pixel binned or cropped at 120 frames per second. Full HD can be recorded at up to 240 frames per second, either cropped or with pixel binning. On top of Log 3, Canon's Log 2 is now supported with 10-bit capture. Canon has significantly reduced, though not completely licked, overheating issues. The primary limitation is 15 minutes for 4K 120p, but that shouldn't be an issue for most shooters. As you'd expect, the oversampled 4K 60p and 6K 60p RAW video is sharp. Canon's RAW video is very easy to work with in post, and with the Log 2 setting, delivers extra dynamic range and latitude in post. It'll be interesting to see how pro photographers react to Canon's new flagship. They do gain an extra 10 frames per second in raw shooting speeds over Sony's A1 and the Nikon Z9, and the sensor is solid in low light. The downside though is that it has half the resolution of its rivals. The IAF2 is an interesting gimmick that may give Canon an edge. The other features like face memorization, sports-specific AF, and cross-action seem good on paper, but I wasn't able to get the most of them in the short time I had the camera, so stay tuned for a future review. The EOS R1 is set to arrive in August, with the exact price still to be determined, but it'll be somewhere around $6,300. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe, and for more on technology, check out Engadget.com.